Do you suffer from lifestyle deficit disorder? The purpose of the Perfect Day podcast is to share simple steps and strategies as a powerful antidote to lifestyle deficit disorder. Listen in as I reveal a path away from disillusionment and dissatisfaction to a life of purpose, joy, and freedom, making every day a perfect day. Welcome to the Perfect Day podcast here live from Dig South 2018. We are so glad to have you here. You know why? Because in a world filled with fear and scarcity and perfectionism, we have a message here today for you that perfect days are not filled with perfection, but they are yours for the taking. So I am Cokie, Berenyi, your Perfect Day engineer, and I have the pleasure of introducing and having here with us Anita Zucker, who is a businesswoman, philanthropist, mother, grandmother, daughter, and educator. And I love that title. I love being able to introduce you as that. And I'm so glad to have you here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Cokie. I'm thrilled to be a part of this. I am so excited as well. And again, this is my first time doing a live podcast.
I mean, when you said it was your second ever podcast, I said, oh, that just makes me so mad that it wasn't your first. But then, of course, Anita, in her gracious manner, gives me, well, it's my first live. So we can chalk that up for us. But, you know, this is not, I love being able to say this is also not your first Perfect Day rodeo. No. Because you were gracious enough to give of your time, and we're going to talk about that because I know many listeners are troubled with this idea of time management. And, you know, there's the saying that if you want something done, ask the busiest person you know to do it. And you probably are the busiest person on the planet, and yet you still always find time to contribute and give back. So I always like to begin in gratitude. So thank you for that just embodies who you are. I mean, just as an opening, I wanted to know Anita's title, and she owns so many titles and prestigious awards and positions and honorary degrees, and yet she chose to not be CEO and chairperson. She chose to be business person, philanthropist, mother, granddaughter, so on and so forth. And I just think that speaks to really who you are so much, as well as just being rooted in your values and who you are as a person. Back to this not being your first rodeo of Perfect Day, you gave of your time back in October, and it was so awesome having you a part of our contribution panel. So would you explain your experience and what your takeaway was, and explain how much contribution means to you in your life, because it's a big part of who you are.
Well, most importantly, I didn't come from a place where I was able to contribute anything more than my time and my what I would call talent as well. And I was taught that by my parents, who were Holocaust survivors. So they taught me that I had plenty to give, and it wasn't always dollars and cents. And I think that's really important for people to realize it's not just about money, it's about what you bring to something. And so to me, being able to be a part of so many things, to be able to offer whatever advice or expertise I might have, has been really great. And so I've been involved in leadership, whether it was a youth group growing up or a couple of youth groups growing up, or other things of that nature that I really love doing. And, you know, going to college, I wasn't able to be in leadership because I had to make money. So we worked, both Jerry and I, because I was married through most of college. We had jobs, we had to make money, we had some businesses because we had become entrepreneurs early.
Wow.
And we had to make sure that we could do everything, and we took our courses. So I didn't really have time to do anything outside of those things, but they really helped me grow as a person, and I think that's so important. And as time went on, as we became able to do more and the opportunities presented themselves, we continued to get involved. And after teaching school for over 10 years and then beginning to have children, I got involved in community And I got involved both in the religious side of community as well as the non-religious side of my community. And I love all of my region and my state, and work for everything that really can make a difference. And so I'm really guided by values, as you mentioned, but also by tikkun olam, which is repair of the world. And so I'm very passionate about education and health and human needs, I would say, those are the areas I focus on. And so you really have to find ways to focus so that you do make time to do the things that are the most important to you. And those are areas I give to, I participate in, I work through, and it's been really amazing because I'm very involved now in chairing a capital campaign. So I've had to learn. I've been involved in capital campaigns through the years with my work, so the good news is I'm not a total novice, but I've learned from scratch how to really do a great job of planning an unbelievably large, comprehensive capital campaign for a university, and it's taught me a tremendous amount. And I've worked with incredible people along the way who have taught me so much about the professional side of fundraising and cultivating people and stewarding donors. So I've really loved learning all of those pieces.
And you're just still growing, and I think that's sort of the spice of life, is that you have, I got to say, I didn't know that you also had businesses in college. That's sort of a new tidbit to me, but it feels like you've had all these vast experiences, yet you're still growing. And to many people, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm sure you've heard it before, but to many people, they can look at you and all that you've achieved, and they could feel like you have everything and that you could just sit back on your laurels and enjoy perfect days, right? And what I see is you just still continuing to contribute and to grow as a person, and I think that embodies the perfect day spirit. One of the things that was interesting as we were pre-show, someone approached us here and said, "Oh my gosh, Anita, you should be keynoting at Dig South." And Anita very bravely said, I just gave a keynote and it was on education, and very aptly so, is that I think that our listeners could really do well and be served by a message of being really clear on the values that are nearest and dearest to you, and you're going to have to pick your battles, because everyone wants a piece of Anita. Everyone, you're an amazing speaker, and you are, and so you're absolutely, and saying no must not come easy, but it has to be a part of your time management system. Has that a big theme that's evolved today has been evolution? And what resonates for me, and I think with most listeners, are struggles. Have there been maybe struggles in your evolution where you had aha moments that perhaps you can share something with our listeners, whether it was about your time management system or how you found maybe time for yourself and for hobbies? I'd love to get into ballroom dancing because I aspire to be a ballroom dancer. I'm not sure if it'll ever happen, but I just am fascinated by all that. So is there a struggle or things or something that you would want to share with the listeners?
Sure, there's always a struggle.
Right.
It's really hard to have time management. I talk about balance, but I will say I don't ever have 100% balance, and I'm not sure I ever can, because I seem to become out of balance. So the key is finding ways to bring yourself back to some center that's a place of comfort for you. And so if I get overloaded, I have to take a break. I have to make the time, and I do need my time for me. So I do need a little me time, and that's where ballroom dancing comes in. And it's my me time. It's my time that I get to do something that I have fallen in love with, that allows me not to have to think about the other things that might be on my mind. It keeps me clear-headed, because you have to focus on what you're doing. And it gives my muscles muscle memory.
I was going to say, I bet it really keeps you in shape.
It helps. It absolutely helps.
Yeah.
There are other things I need to be doing for that, but I do. I work out. They're not perfect. Mm-hmm. Nothing is perfect for me right now, but I'm doing the best I can, and the key is to keep trying. I'm always trying And when you talked about learning, there's no question I feel like I'm growing every day. I believe that learning is lifelong. And I'm really excited when I learn new things every single day. And I think that's critical in each of our lives. It keeps me going. And, is my schedule easy? No. And I have to study it often. I have to really pay attention. I try to look every week and just plan for the week. And then I have to plan for the day. And so I look every night, make sure I've reviewed whatever I might have to review, make sure I know actually how I need to be dressed, if I need to be comfortable or if I need to be dressed in a much more business-like manner, then I have to think about those things and plan. The other key is planning. I have to plan and I have to communicate, and I think it's also interesting you lead by the things you love and that you care to do, but you also need to know how to delegate and get people involved to help you. And so delegating and not thinking I can do it all myself is a part of one of those aha moments that I've probably had along the way where I realized, oh my gosh, I can't do it all.
Right.
I need help. And knowing how to ask for it and use it and get it, I think is a skill that everyone needs to have. And so knowing when I need that help is so important to me. And I surround myself with great people who can help me when I need them.
And that's such an evolved entrepreneurial skill, don't you think? The whole delegating.
I do.
I talk about this in Perfect Day, which, by the way, I do have to give a little plug. Berenyi.com. You can find the book there, and it's actually free, downloadable today and tomorrow, which, when that goes live on the podcast, it'll be long over. So you can pay the whatever it is on Amazon at that time. But that being said, we talk about lifestyle deficit disorder in the book. It's a term I've trademarked because I have too many clients, unlike you, have not really evolved into this place of a life-centered business. Unfortunately, they're on this hamster wheel of a business-centered life, and the number one culprit, I believe, is the inability to delegate.
I think you're right about that. So I've really worked hard at learning that because there's so many things that I just can't do it. I can't make the time work. So I think if you don't learn how to delegate, you will always find yourself in a bad place. And I like being in a happy place.
There's a lot of skill and trust in delegation. Isn't that right?
Yes. And I think creating relationships and finding those people that are the most trustworthy and that you can fully rely on for the things that you need is so important. And so I know I have the people I can turn to when I find myself in a moment that, okay, I'm on overload. I have to have the help. The good news, the help is there almost every day. It's different kinds of help, and different people provide the help for those emotions and those different things that we as women and as individuals have to deal with in our lives. And whether it's a business question, an entrepreneurial question, I have people that I know I should go and talk to, and I have role models, I have mentors, and I have a lot of people that I know if I really have serious business questions. I have a brother-in-law who is recovering right now from surgery, who hopefully will have a 100% recovery. He's been there when I've needed to talk because he ran similar kinds of diverse businesses and has always been there to help. And when you can find people like that offer you the kind of help you need for different things, that's so important.
I think that's a very important message because I think sometimes the busier and more overwhelmed that we get, we sometimes tend to stay to ourselves and not ask for help. We're going to have to cut to a break, and I want to put something on your head and your heart because I'm really excited to talk about an upcoming very esteemed honor that you're going to be bestowed, which is the Ellis Island Medal of Honor next month. So when we come back, we're going to talk with Anita about this awesome honor. So thank you for joining us, Perfect Day Podcast. We'll be back shortly. A perfect day is far from being about perfection. At the root of a perfect day is gratitude, even for life's mistakes. You've got the book, now get the tools. Join me for this exclusive webinar where I will teach you how to create more perfect days in your life. Welcome back to the Perfect Day Podcast. Cokie Berenyi, your Perfect Day engineer, live from Dig South with Anita Zucker. Anita, on break, we were talking about this incredible honor that's going to be bestowed to you next month in New York, and it's the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. Tell us about this.
First of all, it's so special to me because my parents immigrated to America through Ellis Island, and to be, first of all, nominated by Dr. Harris Pastides, president of the University of South Carolina, meant so much. And then the fact that I got selected also means a great deal, and it's even a medal that's recognized by Congress. And it has to do with what we've achieved in our lives. So here I am, this first-generation person, born...
A first-gener. I love that.
First-gener,
It's a new term.
So I've had to deal with lots because my parents had to deal with lots. But the greatest thing is that they taught me so much about life. And Jerry was also a first-gen, and so is David. So we all came from that background. And being first generation, you had to work really hard. And there's just something in us that has made us entrepreneurs, I think, naturally. Mm-hmm. And my mom, who's 94 and a half, still living, she is so entrepreneurial. She would always sell things out of her house. Even when she finished working, she was in retail in her life. She would get clothes and sell them if they were things that, for example, I wasn't going to wear anymore. She would take home all of my things, and she would call people and have them come and buy them from her. So she always knew how to make money.
Love it.
And then she always knew how to keep her children looking the best and fitting in because she was frugal. She knew how to be careful because my parents never made a lot of money, but they knew how to keep us going. And so we, too, have had to be involved in business. From the time I was 12 years old, I had a job. I worked in a day camp every single summer. The first summer, I didn't even get paid. But after that, I got paid. Not much, but I taught arts and crafts to children every summer for 5 years. And then when I was in high school, I worked in a drugstore. So I became a cashier. And I had no choice because we had to have money, and my parents also were teaching us values because they couldn't just give us money for anything and everything we wanted. That just wasn't the way it was. If we wanted a certain type of shoe or a certain type of outfit, we had to earn our money, and then we could go buy it if we so chose, or we could save our money.
Something that's not so much happening this day and age, right? It's a struggle that... I, as a single mom of 10 and 12-year-old, they're 12 and 14. I just lost the ages of my children for a moment. It's a blink in time.
It is. It flies.
That's a big thing you struggle with money and finance, and I know that we talked about this idea of, it's a very unfortunate statistic, but that wealth, money, passed on from generation to generation rarely survives the third generation. And, just what a sad statistic that is. And it leads me back to, I remember it was maybe 12 years ago, Anita, that I got brave enough to raise my hand at a very small, intimate dinner where you were, of course, again, giving of your time. I believe it was a Center for Women event here in Charleston. And it just really struck me at that time that you were this first-gener. And it struck me that that I believe that these first-generation Americans have this different quality about them. And it's this hardworking, and it's this values transfer. And, the father of my children's first-generation Hungarian. And there's just a different ethic, and it's a hard work and core values that are in there. It's a special thing. And I remember raising my hand and saying, Anita, do you think there's something to that? And of course, you went into somewhat what you just said, and I really didn't know the whole backstory of your mother, maybe both parents, being Holocaust survivors, and just it's such a beautiful story. But that value transfer has clearly happened to your generation. What are you doing in addition to the repair of the world and this culture that you're setting within InterTech and really probably everything that you do, that theme and that mission I know transcends your life. What are you doing to continue this value transfer to your second and third generation to ensure that the wealth transfer happens?
So this is a really cute story. I have a granddaughter who just turned 11 yesterday, and she's coming to spend a week with me in July because she wants to learn how to be an entrepreneur, and I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love it. And she's already making slime and selling it.
I mean, and by the way, that your mother is a 94-year-old woman entrepreneur immigrating, to Ellis Island is really quite unheard of. So how amazing, and then how amazing that third generation, your granddaughter.
Yes.
So you're helping her by continuing that theme of entrepreneurism.
Absolutely, and I'm very lucky because my children have learned to be entrepreneurs, and I don't know how much of it was natural at their level, but in some ways I do feel even they know because we establish values and in ways we wanted them to grow up. We had rules and regulations, I can call them that were guided by values for them as they were growing up in their lives. And when each of them reached the age of being able to work, we just said, you need to get a job.
That's awesome. That's the soundbite. That is the soundbite.
Yeah.
You need to get a job.
Mm-hmm. And all of our kids worked at some point during their high school years, even if it was at a camp, whether it was babysitting, working in restaurants.
I believe everyone should work in a restaurant.
Absolutely. My son learned how to mop. He learned how to carry out garbage. He learned how to cook. He learned how to do a lot of different things because he worked at Moe's for a number of years, and he worked at Carvel when he was 15.
Yeah.
And then he decided he had to own a restaurant, so he tried it and got put out of business, but not by anything he did, by something a large company did that put 7 businesses out of business.
Wow.
7 restaurants. But it's another story. And then they ended up failing on top of all of that.
I was going to say, probably another evolve or die story.
Yes, exactly.
From taxi cabs to Uber, right?
Right. And so, unfortunately, not only did they cause the 7 to die, they died eventually. But it's just neat to watch. My youngest son went to school, and his degree's in management with a concentration in entrepreneurship. And all of my children are entrepreneurial, but he went out on his own. He said, I can't come work at InterTech, I have to go out. And he's paving his own way and making his way, and he's doing all the right entrepreneurial things, and it's really fun.
Well, and your values seems as one of supporting that.
100%. And my daughter does social impact work, and I love what she's doing. And so she's being entrepreneurial in a different fashion through the nonprofit world. Whether it's social impact investing, social impact organizations who are creating impact. And then she's got her 2 brothers, and the 3 of them are working together on social impact investing. And so I've really enjoyed watching them take really repair of the world and kind of pushing that into social impact, because that's what it is. When you create impact, you are giving people the opportunity to have their lives change. You are creating the opportunities to change the world, to repair the world, to make it a better place, hopefully. That's the way I view things. So I love what my kids are doing because I feel like they have learned and are learning every day as well how they need to take it. And we do a lot of planning. And so now we're working really hard on, how do you transition through these generations? So yes, this 3-year piece is something we worry about, but we know, I know that I wanted, and I promised Jerry Zucker that I would leave things for my children. And so when we have that transition and it's their turn to completely take over, there will be things there to take over. And they are thinking that way now, that, oh gosh, so when it's time for our children, we want to make sure there's something left. So we have those conversations. And I think it's really important for families, especially our business being a family-owned company, to have transition conversations. How do we continue and keep things going through generations? And we're definitely in the thick of that.
That is a beautiful, beautiful story. And, it's easy. The easier thing is to transfer the money, right? The harder thing is to transfer those values, and you're obviously doing a great job at that. I could not leave this conversation without having a brief conversation in closing about what I believe is nearest and dearest to your heart of what creates a perfect day for you, which is ballroom dancing, and the idea that you now have 3 generations who are ballroom dancing, thanks to you and your love of this. So can you give us a few sentences?
Sure. Well, my daughter-in-law, I got her started a year after I started because I felt like she was very talented, and I've turned out to be, I would say, correct in that. She's an amazing dancer as well, and she's younger than I am, so she can still do moves that I can't do right now. Yeah. Thanks to aging and an aging bone structure in my body that won't cooperate with me at every step of the way.
Which we've talked about that. We're kicking and screaming,
and
right?
I'm going to.
We're not going to go out easy, are we?
No, my body's going to be used up. Yes. It's going to be used up when I leave this world. Yes. But the neat thing is my granddaughter was doing competitive gymnastics, and she decided she wanted to give it up. So the greatest thing is that she takes hip-hop, and then she decided to get into ballroom with us. And we dance with the same partner, all 3 of us, so that's been really interesting. He gets to dance with 3 generations, and she performed in her first show, and she's 8. And I was so excited. She brought her gymnastics into play with her dance, and when they choreographed, they could see the strengths, and that part of it is finding your strengths, just like you do in work. What are your strengths and weaknesses? So make your dance focus on those areas that are your strengths. And I loved the dance that I just did because it had grace, beauty, and elegance. Did it have fancy footwork? Not as fancy as I could do, but it didn't need to. It fit what I needed to be, and her dance fit what she needed to be, a little girl, and showcase that fun that she could have.
And what a beautiful analogy just to business and to the entrepreneur. It's like, make your dance, focus on your strengths. I love it. We've been here with Anita Zucker, businesswoman, philanthropist, contributor, educator. You've given so much, and I thank you so much for being here today. Anita's telling all of us parents out there, make your child get a job, and that I do agree. Thank you so much for sharing your insights as to a perfect day, and sending you many, many, many perfect days.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to have a perfect day by working with you.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for joining us live on the Perfect Day podcast, live from Dig South 2018.